I'm going to hand this over to Tim. We're going to do more of an introduction in a moment, but he's going to set the stage as we begin, and we'll let people trickle in. So we'll go um, with haste, I guess.
Great. Thanks, Katie. So about a month ago, when Katie was going through her business plan, her new product, all the stuff that she was doing, talked about doing this webinar, my reaction was, okay, how does this affect CEOs, boards of directors, people who are not necessarily as in the detail and in the weeds on AI? They hear all the hype, but they want to get basically an easy win. And if you add to that the fact that I think last quarter's conference calls, analyst calls, 25% or something like that of all analyst calls brought up AI. I think this time around this quarter, it'll be more like 40%. So boards of directors and CEOs need to start really kind of answering real questions about AI. So the question that I suggested Katie answer in this webinar, we'll be quick on this, is what are companies actually doing with AI to drive profitable growth? And more importantly, what's the easiest, fastest thing to do? Because there's a lot of hype, a lot of stuff talking about, what you can do. So the real question is, what's the easiest, fastest thing to do? So on with that, as we see on the second slide, we have what are we actually doing with AI to drive profitable growth? And what I have seen is a lot of talk about three things. One, operations. People are talking about agents and all this kind of stuff that can improve and automate things and get rid of jobs. Part of it is productization. How do you build AI into products and stuff like that? And all that's good stuff, but it's going to take a long time and there's going to be some mistakes. What I was surprised at is how few CEOs, senior board members, senior executives actually understand discovery. Discovery is talked about in many cases as AI search. It's not really search at all, but AI search. It's called geo. But discovery is basically with 90% of us using AI to research a question. How do I know that my company, my brand, my product, my solution is actually coming up and being flagged in somebody's search? So the goal today is to really focus on that. My background, just very quickly, is been through all this. Started a company called MarketBridge, sold it to private equity, went through with big companies like IBM, Xerox, et cetera, when they were building new channels. This AI is a new channel. Authored a book several years ago called The Channel Advantage, and I've been on the board of public companies. So I think I know from the perspective of CEOs and boards of directors what they think about. And I think what's going to happen pretty soon is if a CEO doesn't have a really good answer on what they're doing and tangible examples of how they've improved their performance with AI, they're going to have a problem. So that's the goal today. You're going to lots of tools that you can, if you don't get to stay through the whole thing, we've got some follow-up webinars and guides that we can send you. But I'm going to hand it over to Katie and let her go through what is discovery and how do you do it.
Thanks, Tim. So I have spent about 15 years inside of various B2B organizations. I've worked with software companies, some bigger enterprise companies as well. I was the former VP of marketing at MarketBridge. We went through around 7 different merging companies. I think what's actually really funny about this slide is Tim was part of the former MarketBridge, which was the big B, before we rebranded to MarketBridge with the little b. So I've seen lots and lots of change, but I've also reported directly to the CRO, and I know what it takes to, hey, have marketing's numbers and need to report those to the CRO and ultimately the board. So I have spent hundreds of hours on AI search, geo, AIO, whatever you want to call it, live testing what it takes to appear in AI answers and working with clients to do so, particularly in benchmarking. So we're going to get started and talk through today really quickly, but I wanted to make sure I set the stage of the agenda. So we're going to go through 4 things today. The market shift. This has been talked about a lot, so I want to skim through this really quickly because I'm sure you are inundated with enough information on what's changing right now. A real life case and some of these surfaced risks that we found if you don't attempt to show up in AI answers. benchmarking your risk, the roadmap to fix it, and Tim is going to talk about the business case and the ROI for focusing on AI discovery today. So hang with us about 10 minutes in. This is where I want to make sure you guys hang with us and let you know what you're going to get out of this. It's not just us presenting. At 10 minutes in, we're going to show you how to benchmark your AI discovery readiness. So we'll talk about what that means. After that, hopefully faster than 20 minutes, actually, we're going to go straight to a roadmap to improve it, aligning people, process, organization to show up in AI search and what that means. And then at the end, we're going to talk about the business case to fund it. So all of this stuff, the executive playbook, the competitive risk grader, anything I'm showing you here today, you will get after, or you'll get pinged in the actual chat box. Great. Okay. So let's talk about the market shift. This is, again, what has probably been told to you already, but if not, I'm glad I can present it today. Around 94% of business buyers now use AI in the buying process. I think this one came directly from Forrester. And same with the second stat, 2 times as many buyers cite generative AI as more meaningful information source than vendor websites, product experts, or sales, which makes sense because I don't know about you. I'm on there every day using AI to ask information, everything about my kids to where do I need to go next, to actual business questions. And it's just easier and simpler than talking with someone or talking with a customer service or sales rep. So I love this lens playing on the channel advantage. Customers choose channels, and now AI is one of those most important channels. And it's figuring out how does your business show up in the questions that matter to revenue. Great. So this is the angle that not a lot of people talk about, and it actually was a little controversial on my LinkedIn feed. But first, automated traffic now outnumbers humans. So more than 51% of all web traffic is not an actual human behind it. So on the right, you'll see this Just Do It Nike image. And I have this concept in mind that if Nike launched today, and if you guys know, Nike is obviously over the years gained a lot of its attention from emotion-driven marketing. If it launched today with Just Do It, plain and simple, would AI know how to retrieve and understand that information? And my belief is not exactly. While your brand still has to have the emotional side to sway and obviously convince people to buy, it needs to be clear enough to understand. And Just Do It alone doesn't help. For humans, you obviously have to have that brand side, making it memorable. But for AI, you really have to be clear and retrievable. Modern marketing has to do both. And I actually saw something interesting on LinkedIn that Nike itself has started actually expanding the descriptions of their tennis shoes to say stain-free jogging shoe or whatever for AI answers. So that proves that they're doing more in this instance. So a real life test and the 4 risks that if you pass on optimizing for AI discovery are going to be something you're going to have to face. So we ate our own dog food. No Fluff launched about 6 months ago at this point. We decided we're not going to go out and massively sell. We are going to run our own study. Not many people, there's been a lot of AI buzz on, oh, you need to do this to show up in AI search. You need to write this. You need to be on this publication. You need to put schema and JSON, all this crazy stuff, which is right in some instances. But we wanted to know if a new business implemented all of the best practices, could we show up in AI answers? And could that turn into inbound revenue? And so we were going up against some of the largest, more established competitors. And we decided instead of going after a giant launch campaign, 20 different initiatives, webinars like this, and the amount of things that people do for marketing, we are going to focus on 150 questions. We'll talk about 150 why later. A broad amount of questions that we knew we either wanted to be the expert for when someone asks. So what is AI search? How do I show up in AI search? What is GEO? Anything like that, to specific who is No Fluff, to questions like what are the best B2B vendors that can help me with AI search? So Of course, winning outright in 90 days is going to be hard, nearly impossible. But what happened was very interesting. We actually got further than we expected, 42 citations, but we also compounded everything else. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. The real lessons were actually in the risks for other businesses and that we're teaching as we work with other organizations, maybe even not startups, could be enterprise, could be any type of business that you need to watch out for. So, number one is lost buyer consideration. You can imagine a name like No Fluff is used throughout the internet. It can also be mistaken for something like a stuffed animal. So, AI confused us with similarly named businesses. I actually will show you a little later a cool assessment that we did on a similar named business in Connecticut. And it frequently gave us the wrong answers. So, what we needed to do is fix that confusion. And it doesn't matter if you're a business that just launched, like we had, or you're a business that has been in market for quite a long time. Most likely, you're going to have to fix some confusion, make sure you're clear and credible. So, you are making sure you get that demand, and sales conversations don't start with a correction. No, we're this company and not that one. So the risk too is market trust doesn't just start at your website. I'm sure you've heard a lot of things about adding, certain code to your site or changing the way your website is worded to show up in AI search. But I will tell you, this is the same with a lot of our clients. Most of the first AI search appearances that you will have, not on who is your company with your name in it, but how do I look? I'm looking for a vendor in this space, or I need help with this. Those questions aren't going to go to your website first. The way I explain it is if I'm looking for a plumber, I don't have their website at first. I go to Yelp. I go to Facebook. I go elsewhere and I look for them in sources that are public forums where I can find information. And so we had the same exact instance where we didn't show up at all in AI search from having the most optimized website, following all the best practices. Actually, that third party publication, we had a publication with Search Engine Journal, and I had a lot of my own LinkedIn posts, which AI looks at LinkedIn a lot. Those are where we really got pickup. So the C-suite take is if all of your credibility exists just on the channels you own, your website potentially, your portals, whatever it might be, AI may it'll understand you, but it won't necessarily find you as a real category player. So we'll talk about PR, authority building, and how do you build communities outside of your website where it's repeating your name and helping you get picked up in AI. So risk number 3 is silent competitive gains. So this was very interesting. If you've been in this space and you've watched and monitored AI search before, visibility is volatile. Every single time a new model releases, there's a new ChatGPT. I know Gemini just did a release recently. The model is either retraining or it's changing the factors for which you get reference. So for us in particular, GPT 5.3 launched on March 3rd. 5.4 on the 5th, and it actually was looking at more credible outside sources. Obviously, we had been a business around for about 3 months. We didn't have as much of those outside sources. So our brand mentions drastically dropped. And so the idea here, and actually our competitors did too, competitors that are paying attention to this can quickly gain grounds. If they understand how AI is moving, how it's thinking, they can definitely get ahead. And so my question is, in your organization, who is responsible for monitoring your company in AI answers? And who is going to make those changes over time? Because this is not a one and done, oh, I optimized for AI and I'm good. That's not the way it works, even though I wish it was. And then risk number 4 is pretty much my favorite, is missing a compounding advantage. We did not expect this at all, but we organized everything we did from launch around the questions that buyers might ask in AI. And so let me explain what that means. Our entire website was answer based. Everything we did from a marketing standpoint was driving to answering the questions that we wanted to show up for in AI search. the media publications that we decided to get into, even the channels we hopped onto. So we went onto Medium, we went onto LinkedIn, and I would have never thought of publishing a blog on Medium ever before, really. And what's really neat is that same strategy that helped us show up in AI also compounded our Google impressions, compounded founder engagement, because I was answering questions that were very clear that people already had, and helped us with inbound demand. And with inbound demand was very interesting because a competitor of ours in Connecticut has a very similar name. And we were getting calls from, I guess, partners that had referred that agency that does paid marketing to us, thinking that we were that other company. And that just shows that, our focus, the amount of noise that was obviously focused around those answers and those questions, helped us build inbound demand. So the C-suite take here is focus wins. How do you not run 20 plus campaigns at once? How do you focus around the questions you want to be the answer for and drive all your marketing against that? Okay, so everything we learned. Tim, do you have any questions actually so far?
No, I think the key is now, I love where you're headed, which is, okay, fine. How do I know how I stand?
Okay, that's what we're going to talk about. So we are going to talk about benchmarking your AI risk. So everything we had learned during our experiment, we pulled into around 64 different signals. And these are the foundational signals that you would need to even show up in AI. It's basically your AI readiness. It's not testing specific questions in AI search. It's saying, okay, do you have everything out there that AI would need to pick you up? So I'm going to share my screen and give everybody access to use our competitive grader. Let me know, SG or Tim, if you can see my screen.
While Katie's bringing this up, I would note to people that in an old world, we used to do benchmarking, and it took hours and hours of labor. And I'm sure McKinsey and those guys these days will charge you $100,000 to do a benchmarking of your AI discoverability. Katie's team at No Fluff has now automated this. It's amazing. They've used AI to automate benchmarking. You'll see that some other time.
And I see the link is also in here. So if everyone can see my screen, we're releasing this exclusively to the people on this webinar. You're going to get a first test of what we're automating and why there's also a human analyst behind this. We want to make sure that the insights we're giving you are accurate, and even extra information on what you should be doing. So what it is you go in, put your information, and it's going to check you versus your top two competitors against 34 different signals, 64 different signals. And as simple as it's not just your website. It's looking at, do you have authority outside of your website? Do you have backlinks? Do you have media mentions? Are you in the press? From your website, do you have authoritative content? So we like to say it's 3 different signals, which is SEO and website, content and answer questioning, and the third is PR and authority building. So the way it looks, and I'm going to show you, you fill this out pretty simply. It is completely confidential. We will get back to you within 3 to 5 business days. Takes 30 seconds. First name, last name, company, URL. They're top 2 competitors that you want to be compared against. And right now I'm going to show you ours because I thought this would be very interesting. I mentioned that competitor of ours that's in Connecticut. And yes, I think people were trying to figure out they'd met them or something and they came to us or what's interesting is we have obviously optimized a lot of the signals. We still have work to do because we're a new business and we can always grow and build our authority and our media relations. But this is going to show something similar for you. It is your risk. Do you have a strong AI readable foundation? What we say is, do you have enough for AI to understand, trust, and recommend you? It's going to look at you versus your competitor. So here, as I showed you, No Fluff Agency, and probably why we were coming up more frequently than them. That's what was our goal, is to avoid that confusion. A little bit of summary on what you need to know. what makes up your score. And we actually have a link that goes into that. If you want the technicality, this is just the executive high level. We're not going to do that. But the most important thing is the top 3 refinements to make next. And I love this because this is what we're working on as a team right now. And this, you can use this ongoing. So once you fix some of the foundation, you can come back and try it again and see what else are the new refinements that you need to work on. But this is exactly what it found, why it matters, and then the action steps. Yeah, so that is our grader that everyone in this call has early access to. We're not going to release it to the public for a week or so, and I would love any of your feedback. It's a first step into what is deeper benchmarking and building the right questions for products, use cases, and we'll talk about that next. Okay, so you get all these insights, and now you're like, what is the roadmap to fix this? And so if everyone on this call is like, okay, why was it set for the C-suite? Why wouldn't I just give this to my marketing team? I will say AI builds its answer from every team member. So I'm going to reverse engineer a question here. So let's say someone says, who should we trust in healthcare cybersecurity software? Making this up. AI is more likely to name the company when the market-facing evidence tells one clear story. And it's going to be looking across multiple channels that are ultimately influenced by different departments. So if AI doesn't see your departments, it's not going to see that. It's going to actually see the evidence that teams are putting out publicly. And so, of course, we'd want to look at the sources that AI is pulling for this answer, but I'm going to give you an example channel it might read from. So leadership, maybe they're on LinkedIn. They're expressing their point of view. They're also telling you what the solutions and services and the messaging needs to be. So that's a single channel. Marketing, they are obviously building the category language and positioning that's on your website. PR and communications, they are influencing third-party mentions and validations. And let's say in this instance, maybe AI goes to TechCrunch a lot. Do you guys happen to be on that publication? So product, accurate claims capabilities. If someone's asking product-specific questions, it's going to look at your release notes if they're public. Partner marketplaces, possibly, and this crosses over with sales. G2, is there proof? Is there ROI? Are there good positive reviews? So again, anything that's digital is what AI could be looking at if it's open and has the capabilities to. And then customer success. And I think for most of the times we've done these analysis within the B2B space, Reddit and LinkedIn has a big foothold on how AI is pulling answers, but you better have be answering customers on Reddit when they have questions and concerns. And again, that's a customer success function. So we talk about choosing one person within your organization that can work across departments. And we're going to talk about process next to make sure that when you decide on where you want to show up for an AI search, that they can work across departments to put out the right signals. So process. Now you can see it's much bigger than just handing this to your, in-house marketer and saying, hey, fix this, make us show up in AI. We want to be top on the list of competitors. It's a lot more complicated than that. We have an answer framework that you can rally your teams around, and we're going to actually send the C-suite guide to AI discovery that also launched today. Lots of big launches. So it's 6 different things. So number 1 is aligning to revenue. And I always say, think of this like a pilot. Pick the product segments, use cases that matter the most. And I'm going to give you an example. So if I'm Texas Instruments, I'm not going to want to show up in as an example, the top chip, the top microchip organization in the US or whatever it might be. Maybe that question is specifically somebody that is trying to get education, or that question is somebody that might be trying to invest. On the other hand, I do want to show up when someone is looking for a chip for a medical wearable device. And that is a specific use case, a niche. If they're asking that information, they're most likely purchasing. So it's really important to pick those product segments, use cases that make sense, that are actual real decision moments rather than just being on a top list. Second is name the buyer questions. So once you understand those segments, those use cases, how do you build those questions that shape discovery, trust, comparison, shortlisting? And this isn't just top, top healthcare microchip manufacturing companies. That's not it. It's going to be, I'm looking for a solution to this. Where do I find it? It's going to be, I don't know about this industry. So you have to understand all of the questions across awareness, decision, comparison, and validation categories, and make sure that you're showing up across those. And that's where we have to work with different departments to understand what are customers asking sales? What are they asking customer service? And building out the right questions to measure an AI search. So the next is see where you stand. This is where a lot of people will go ahead and start implementing all the best practices they see on LinkedIn without thinking through the questions they want to show up for and actually measuring whether AI names you or not, whether it cites you, whether it misstates you, whether it ignores you completely or confuses you with a different competitor. So that's where we help our clients with benchmarking. And the next three parts are really about execution. So once you get that big picture and the challenges, you should be able to build out a 90 to 180-day roadmap. Obviously, fixing the foundation is maybe shorter term, but it's going to take much longer to show up in AI search. So first is writing the business clearly. A lot of times companies write with internal lingo, and it's good to look at external information on the actual terms that buyers are using, and then answer those in the right way. So clarifying the positioning, the proof, the outcomes, the use cases. And we go into detail on all ANSWER in our guide. Engineering the foundation. This is now where, okay, foundation oftentimes starts with your website and the owned channels you have. It's the easiest to fix. The number one thing I tell people is first, figure out if your site is even readable by site speed. So if your site is too slow, AI is going to skip it. So that's pretty much the first place we start with all of our clients. And then the last one is reinforce authority. And this is actually probably the most important out of all of them, but it's harder to influence. Okay, so we talked about the process, now about technology. And this is where it's not as simple as getting a really awesome tool. It's not as simple as going to buy Profound or Searchable or Peck AI. There's a lot that goes into it. So first, there's obviously building those fixed buyer questions that you want to test, making sure you understand with sales, customer success, multiple divisions and teams. What are your buyers saying? What are your customers saying that you need to address? And they could be early in the sales cycle and even at the end of the sales cycle, comparison against competitors. All of that information should be in where you need to show up in AI search. So a broad range of questions. Then you're going to track those answers using AI tracking tools. And that is where the Peck AI, we actually use use hall.com, and we use them for AI tracking because we can export, see all the answers and everything. And that's where you'll be able to see, okay, where does AI pull from? Where are competitors higher than us in certain things? You'll be able to look at that citation and source intelligence generally from that same technology. From there, then it's new technology to actually edit your website. So is it looking at Screaming Frog to say, okay, do I have the right internal links? Is it using rank math to apply various SEO meta tags, LLMS text, all that stuff? And then in the end, conversion and revenue analytics. So this is making sure you understand, okay, is AI impacting my conversions? Is AI impacting people coming to my site? And actually Google released this week that they have new dashboards to show traffic from AI search, not from specific questions at all, but from AI search. So that just shows you there is a lot of tools and technologies here that have different skill sets. I would say this crosses probably an analytics department in the beginning. And then when you go at the end, you've got more of a digital department. And then maybe marketing operations when you get to conversion and revenue. So there's a lot that this crosses.
And the one
So
thing that
I'm
I,
not going to go
the one
through
thing I
this.
noticed, Katie, the one
Mhm.
thing I noticed is basically you're reverse engineering the right content as opposed to saying,
Yes,
oh, I'm going to do a bunch of market research and then come up with a campaign. You're kind of reverse engineering.
yes,
Where are people finding the content and how do I go intercept them there?
exactly. And that's probably the biggest way we tell people to approach even PR and media relations differently is taking all of those questions, running them through AI, and AI is probably going to think very much similar to a human would. What are the authoritative sources, news outlets that your buyer reads is most likely going to be very similar to what AI reads. So it gives you a good focus area, knowing that you can cover both. I'm not going to go into this because we are low on time. And I actually think, luckily, I think this webinar was booked on most calendars till 1:45, if that's correct, SG. But this is all in the executive guide that SG hopefully will ping in this. Yeah, that's good. It's pinged in the webinar chat. If you were to say, hey, I don't have all these departments, that is okay. This page right here, leadership, analytics, marketing, is probably where you want to start. When you start here, it will push you towards getting a benchmark. And once you get that benchmark, it'll specifically say, okay, what are my competitors doing? What am I not? And it'll tell you where to prioritize. So I know there's some of you on this call that are like, I don't have all these departments. That's okay. I think following the answer framework first and getting that benchmark will really tell you where to focus. But if not, this inside the guide, you will find the top 3 priorities by department that should help elevate your presence in AI search. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to Tim. Tim is going to talk about building the business case because all of this sounds great, but how does it impact my business, my revenue? How do I talk to the board about it? Great.
Great. A lot of people will come back and say, well, if you do this, you'll get X number of leads and Y number of conversion rates and try to come up with the impact on a pipeline. And it has an impact on the pipeline. And I'm sure every company is different, but I see sort of 3 things. Number one, if you don't do good discovery, this is what I've learned because I'm not the expert on this. I just ask questions and figured out this is what's going on. If you don't do it, you're going to face pipeline erosion. It shocked me when I heard that 94% of all buyers are using AI of some sort. And then when I started, even in customer support, I realized rather than going to the vendor's website, if I just go to AI, I get the answer faster. So if you're not competitive and you're not discovered, you're going to start to lose pipeline. That's the first thing. The second thing is, there's all this talk over the last 5 or 10 years with intent. You can predict intent. Well, nothing beats intent than somebody writing a 2 or 3 paragraph prompt on exactly what they want. So what I've learned about AI discovery is if you're intercepting what are fairly lengthy prompts now by customers like me, you'll actually screen out the trash. You'll focus on the people that really care about buying your product, and you'll probably accelerate your sales cycles. So that's one thing I think that you have to look at is as you test it after the benchmarking, are you improving your conversion rates? And by kind of cutting out the froth of the noise up the top of the funnel and really getting those buyers that are serious at the bottom of the funnel. And I think really good AI discovery can do that. And then last, as I think you're learning is these are learning engines. These LLMs are trying to learn all the time. And if you get in early, if you're the first mover, you can basically become and establish yourself as the authority. And I think you're going to see that out there, the guys who have moved first in any little niche and really built robust content are actually building a moat. They're essentially building a trust or an authority moat. So there's ways to go through an economic model, but think of it as if you don't do it, you're screwed. If you do it, you'll probably improve your conversion rates and cycles, and there's ways to test that. And then lastly, if you're the first guy out there doing it, you're going to be setting up some defensible moats around your business and how you approach things. So I'm a big believer that when analysts and board members and stuff start asking people about AI, if they're not immediately saying, okay, we're all on top of this discovery thing because that's the easiest, fastest return, you're missing something. You better be on top of discovery, and you better be checking with your team and your competitors right now to see where do you stack up. And that's why No Fluff created this whole benchmarking process, which is help companies understand where they are right now and what they need to improve. So I'll let Katie finish up from there, but I'd highly encourage everybody, download, if you can participate in this competitive scan and you can download the CEO guide, do it, because it's worth every penny and more that you spend and every moment you spend getting this information.
So, in conclusion, we'll skim by this. Where are we headed? This is a little scary to me, to be honest. But 90% of B2B buying will be intermediated by AI agents by 2028, with 15 trillion in spend throwing through them. I think again, this was a Forrester one. I tend to lean on Forrester, it seems. This is amazing. I love that. I think that if you're in marketing, the marketing world will either be, catering to AI or building human experiences again at some point. Maybe that's in person, but this is something we have to account for in the digital space. And that's where I highly believe in how do you optimize for AI agents. Okay, so everyone in this call, because we went over, um, we will answer questions via email. I have one question on here that I can answer really quickly once we go through this. Do the competitive risk rater. We're going to send that via email, but we also in the chat sent you guys a link to it. Again, 3 to 5 days, we'll get back. It is completely confidential. You can see it. You don't even have to show your team if you don't want to, or you can. Book your benchmark. So let's say you do want to go further and you want to understand, okay, how do I generate the right questions that are pointing to specific revenue needs to show up in AI search? We can help you do that. Build those questions. We test them in all AI engines. It only takes 1 to 2 meetings with you and maybe some sales and other execs. And then we come back around 10 to 14 days later with a very, very comprehensive benchmark report. And then if you have more questions and want to speak with any of us, my email is on here and my LinkedIn is also on here, and we can talk through any questions you might have. So we'll answer some of these questions. I see Risa didn't get the link to the grader. It's in the chat box at the bottom, but SG, if you can type the answer and comment to her there. And then, do you use AI to come up with questions you want to be searchable for? Yes and no. So ideally, you want to actually look at public signals that are out there. So again, it might be where your buyers currently exist, or if there is a portal where your current customers exist. It might be a tool called People Also Ask. It might be SEMrush for keyword data. We still look at keyword data because a lot of times companies are using the wrong language. I'll give you a really quick example. We work with a commercial printer. They use the word commercial print, but that is very much a division of their own organization. What people are actually asking for is marketing collateral, business cards. They're asking for much deeper and specific. That term commercial print is too technical. And we have some other examples that are for services companies and technology companies in the guide, where we explain how to take your language from what you may think it is departmental to what people actually search. So that's in there. So we do a bunch of that. And then we also have about 6 different sets of questions that we want to cover. So some of those questions include your name in them. Some of them are comparison questions. Some of them are deeper semantic questions. So we have a wide set of them that, yes, we use AI to possibly help us in some ways because it is seeing and able to search the web faster than we can. But we have to also look at all of those signals that exist within the department and exist where actual humans are online right now. Yeah, and I think those are the only questions that I see right now.
Great. Thanks
Great.
everybody for taking the time.
Thanks so much. And we'll let you guys get back to your day.